Hey, how's it going? It's your challenger coach, Adam Warrior the Isles, here to bring you the 10.2 Low Elo tier list, so without any more delays, let's just jump right into it. In the top lane, our starting S tier roster will be Yorick, Kled, Singed, Ornn, and Fiora. This is a relatively small patch, but we did move Fiora to S tier thanks to the increase in good matchups he has, along with her dominating performance in 1v1 in a meta that is super laning focused. We also moved your boy Set to B tier for now, as he is performing at roughly a 50% win rate, but he will likely climb up, and Trundle was also moved into B tier thanks to his buffs making him a decent counterpick option into tanks or even skirmishers like Aurelia. That means that the first champion I like to focus on this patch is one top laner that everyone is familiar with, and that's Dunkmaster Darius. He's normally considered a low elo stomper, but recently due to an increase in skirmishes in Season 10, Darius in fact, his win rate goes up steadily as you go up the ladder. This makes him a perfect champion to invest time into, as surprisingly he does better the higher up you climb on the ladder, which, you know, shouldn't be hard since you'll be maining Darius. For his build, I know Darius mains are split between Black Cleaver and Trinity Force, but if you have the income for it, Trinity Force stat-wise is performing a lot better, so I would recommend it when you're snowballing, and then after that you just pick up a Sterox or a Spirit Visage, and Dead Man's Plate of course if you need the armor. You're gonna want to pick up Darius if you like snowballing the laning phase or falling behind in it, but then getting a random pentakill in a teamfight anyways. Okay, so this champion, yeah, you're likely never gonna get a penta on him unless he uses wizard build, and that's Malphite. But that doesn't mean that he is any less effective at winning games than Darius, and just like him, is considered a low elo pick that despite public perception does in fact still do pretty well at high levels of play. Not super amazing, but pickable. The reason for this, like many things in Season 10, is the increased amount of dragon fights and AoE champions in the meta. I don't care what level you're gonna play at, Orianna, Malphite, and Misfortune is brutal to deal with. Not only that, with so many viable AD mid champions like Talon, Kiki, Zed, Baker Guy, and Yasuo, it's very common for teams to end up being AD heavy, and then you can perfectly counter them with Malphite. So of course you're going to want to pick up Malphite whenever the enemy team picks too much AD for a free win. You're just going to want to avoid that Darius matchup. Please and thank you from your future self and your teammates. Next up, a champion you will likely never hear thank you from your teammates from, and that's Yorick. Why, you might ask? Well, that's because they will likely never see you since you'll be split pushing all game, which at lower levels of play is quite an effective strategy and one of the main reasons he is S tier. This is because despite your team potentially not knowing how to play around your split push pressure, the other team will likely not also be able to respond properly. The most common things to happen versus a Yorick split push is they don't send anyone and then you just get a tower for free. Or they send the wrong person to match you, then you get the tower for free. Or they send too many people for you, and your team picks up a tower. Okay, just kidding. In the real world, they recall or take wolves while you die, attempting to deal as much damage to that tower as you can, but don't worry, it's still worth it because you'll get it next time. Either way, you're gonna want to pick up Yorick if you like a champion with strong 1v1, and then plays like a true solo queue split push game after that. In the jungle, our S tier roster will be Warwick, Master Yeezy, Echo, and the way Bossman5 pronounces it, even though he's wrong, we have Shaco. For movement this time around, we have Trundle moving from B tier to A tier due to his buffs and favorable matchups into meta picks like Olaf, along with Set being placed initially as a B tier jungler. This time around for the jungle recommendations, I'm going to keep to a theme, which will be getting LP by simply pressing R. So first up, of course, we have Amumu. The Amumu stock is gonna rise this patch, insider tip, due to his synergy with some of the popular ADC picks like Misfortune for that classic Curse of the Sad bullet time combo, as well as Jinx with a nice little buff this patch who naturally dishes out a lot of AoE damage. For his build, in the past I've recommended his tank build, but for the true carry mummy and the build that works the best as you climb up the ladder, you gotta go AP. You're gonna start off with Runic Echo's Blue Smite into Leandri Zhonya's as your core, with Abyssal Mass Spirit Visage being an option if you don't need armor. For runes, interestingly enough, high-level Amumu players, okay, you know what, don't laugh, I swear they exist, they go Conqueror with Domination Secondary for better dueling and sustained damage during fights. Next up on the press R to win patch, we have Vi. She's a super easy to execute jungler who can farm easily, secure neutral objectives easily even when your team doesn't want to help, and once she hits 6, all you do is pick someone who doesn't have flash and then R them for free kills. This unfortunately will require you to actually keep track of the enemy team's flashes, which is about the hardest thing that a Vi player is going to have to do all game. The other thing that seems to be hard for Vi players is actually choosing the correct setup, which seems that most people do it wrong, so I've looked through all the stats and data for you to give you the best chance of winning with the least amount of effort. For her build, you're going to want to go Blue Smite Warrior into Trinity and then Edge of Night as the best option for you, and after that you can grab a J or Sterox as needed. along with her rune page being Hail of Blades with Precision Secondary for Triumph Alacrity. Might seem a little bit weird, but it is by far her most effective setup. You're gonna want to pick up Vi if you like a jungler who punches things but actually wins games, unlike Set Jungle. Kidding, he's actually okay. The last champion you're going to want to hit R for victory with will be Nocturne, though of course Karthus is going to get an honorable mention for obvious reasons. Ever since the Sanguini Blade nerfs though, this champion has been receiving less and less attention in both mid lane and the jungle. But after doing some research, I found that the Italian stallion of items Sanguini Blade is actually a trap on Nocturne, and that most high-level Nocturnes in fact have abandoned the item altogether. Instead, they go Blue Smite Warriors into Duskblade Edge of Night, focusing more on upfront damage and dueling potential rather than DPS. With the rune page remaining the same as before with lethal tempo combined with your W attack speed, you'll still have enough consistent damage, but you'll have an easier time bursting opponents down with double spell shield to cover any potential counterplay at all. You're gonna want to pick up Nocturne if you're a farm to 6 counter jungle player who likes strong 1v1 potential and horrific late game. Heading over to the mid lane, our starting S tier roster will be Diana, Fizz, Swain, Rumble, and Katarina. First off, we have some really nice buffs to Ziggs, so we are hesitantly moving him to A tier, where I'll talk a bit more about him on the pick of the patch video. A Nocturne, on the other hand, will be moving down from A tier to B tier, as his mid lane dominance from the preseason is dwindling, but we do have Victor moving up to A tier, so let's talk a little bit about him. Now, Victor did receive a bug fix that will give him a larger mana pool, which is nice, but even without it, he's been increasing in popularity and win rate since the beginning of the season. This is because many people have found new Victor setups that allow him to impact the game earlier on, allowing him to crush mid-game fights with his high burst damage and kiting ability. For your core items, finish up your Hex Core ASAP, followed by Luden's Echo into Deathcap, throwing in items like Zhonya's when needed. For your runes, I prefer Phase Rush with Inspiration Secondary for free boots and money lending, so you can easily dodge ganks, chase people down, and even save some money so you can hit your power spikes faster. Though I am aware of his one-shot Electrocute setup with Deathcap and Lichbane, I think it's pretty good, but the Phase Rush Inspiration setup is a little bit more consistent in the win rate department. You're gonna want to pick up Victor if you like control mages that have high burst potential and pretty much an undodgeable combo. Just ask Doublelift about that one, I'm pretty sure he'll back me up on this. Next up, let's talk about a champion that is definitely not an exact copy of a Pokemon. We have Articuno. I mean, they didn't even try to hide it, and Nivea even starts with an A. Anyways, this champion for many seasons now has been one that is super underrated at low levels of play. The reason she does so well is that the most common strategy in this bracket is to, when in doubt, just group mid as 5, and also when not in doubt, it's probably also group mid as 5. You know what Anivia is best at though? Yeah, stopping people from sieging one lane, so she pretty much can do that 1v5, allowing her to not only stall out games, but set up picks with her wall pretty easily. For her build, it's pretty simple. You're gonna go Rod of Ages into Seraphs into Leandries, followed by things like Deathcap, Void, or even Azanias whenever you need it. For her runes, you're gonna want to go Comet with Precision Secondary for Presence of Mind so that you can help out with her mana problems. You're gonna want to pick up the Bird if you enjoy watching entire teams struggle to push a tower versus you. And last but not least, from mid lane, we have Rumble. He's been mentioned on the High-ELO list before due to his dominance in that bracket as well as competitive play, especially in the LPL, but this champion has even extended his reach to stomp Low Elo as well. Honestly, I don't know how he keeps getting away with it. I'm curious how long it's gonna take Riot for him to nerf him, as he's been just as strong as he is right now for the entirety of last season. But I guess he just isn't popular enough to be on Riot's radar, so please take full advantage of this until he is actually nerfed. Rumble, currently in the mid lane, has enough burst damage to easily get solo kills in lane, or even when he can't due to his wave clear and shield, he can just fast push a wave unharmed and then roam. And let me tell you something from experience, no matter how many times you ward bot side and ping the Rumble is roaming to your bot lane, they will die because his ult range is incredibly far, so he almost always snowballs off of roaming to bot lane. This is a champion that if I could, I would highlight in 3 spots on both tier list videos every single week until he is nerfed, but Fi won't let me do that, so I'm only gonna highlight him this time, okay? Make sure to pick up Rumble mid this season if you're gonna pick up any single mid laner. For the bot lane Low Elo list, our starting S tier roster will be Jinx, Miss Fortune, Senna, Caitlyn, and Yasuo. We'll be moving Jinx down from S tier to A tier due to the nerfs to Crit Cloak and Storm Razor hurting his mid-game power spike, and we will also be moving Aphelios, God of Bot Lane, to A tier due to the combination of nerfs he's received on this patch as well as last patch. But who knows, he may return to S tier shortly, he's just that broken at the moment. Speaking of broken, let's talk about Miss Fortune. I know everyone's tired of hearing about her, but she needs to be mentioned. She's historically been considered a noob stomper, so you know there's something wrong when she's stomping High-ELO and pro play as well. Considering she might be the easiest ADC to play in the entire game, something's wrong when that happens. The reason I'm gonna bring her up this patch though is she's getting indirectly stronger with Stormrazor losing 5 AD and Crit Cloak stacking during the mid game being nerfed. Many of the champions that are actually contesting MF like Jhin or Caitlyn for example are just gonna get worse. This means that Miss Fortune, who was already super strong during the mid game and didn't abuse this item combo, will have even less competition during mid game fights, with literally no other ADC aside from maybe Aphelios had a chance to match her in mid game teamfight damage anyways. No one's gonna be even close anymore. As if there weren't enough reasons to pick Miss Fortune already, for some reason Riot decided to add another. So if you want an easy to play and easy to execute AD carry for some free wins, definitely pick up Miss Fortune. This champion is probably someone you've forgotten about for a while, as he isn't popular at lower levels of play or even high levels of play for that matter. Stat-wise, he still does do okay though, but the reason I'm gonna bring him up this patch is not only is he being indirectly buffed like Miss Fortune, but enchanters, his favorite lane partners, are being buffed. So let's talk about Kog'Maw. Nami, the god support at the moment, and Janna are doing extremely well, but champions like Karma and Sona are receiving some buffs this patch, but more importantly, Lulu also got a buff to her ECD, which is extremely strong. And now, I'm gonna be honest, the Kog'Maw's on his own, especially with supports like Pyke who are super selfish, not so strong. But Kog'Maw Lulu specifically on this patch might even be S tier, and I highly recommend you trying out this combo. For his build, since you probably forgot what it is or don't know what it is anymore, it's Blade of the Rune King into Rage Blade and then Rune on its Hurricane with lethal tempo and sorcery for his runes. You're gonna want to pick up Kog'Maw if you have a duo queue or someone has already picked Lulu, Nami, or Janna. Thresh or Braum can also work, but without these champions, I would really stay away from Kog'Maw. Now, this time around, we got a champion who's receiving an actual direct buff for once, and that's Draven. His ult damage is going up a decent bit during the mid to late game, so I'm going to talk about him a bit and his place in the meta at the moment. Draven is currently on the lower end of A tier, which is why so many Draven mains complain about him being completely terrible, since he, for the majority of the last 2 seasons, has been S tier. Though I can sympathize with some of those complaints, as they do hold true. He currently doesn't really have an identity, so he really doesn't stop the laning phase too hard, he doesn't scale that well, he doesn't teamfight that well, he does all these things pretty mediocre. And due to having some suboptimal build and rune setups, there's nothing really amazing synergy-wise that Draven has for this season. That doesn't mean that Draven isn't strong though, and that he doesn't have some pretty decent builds. For his build this time around, you're going to want to go Bloodthirster Infinity Edge into a ZL item like Rapid Fire Cannon. For his runes, there is a split between press the attack and conqueror, but stat-wise, press the attack with sorcery secondary for the maximum amount of AD is doing slightly better. Now, he is a bit of a risky stock to invest into, but Riot did mention that they will likely buff Draven again, so you're going to want to pick him up for an early investment if you like selfish champions that look to stomp the laning phase. Last up, we have the support S tier roster of Janna, Leona, Nautilus, Soraka, Nami, and Taric. You might be wondering why Nautilus is remaining in S tier despite the heavy nerfs to his Q damage. And that's because most Nautilus players don't even max Q anymore, so it shouldn't impact them too much as the base nerf is only 10 damage. Which is unlike the Sona changes, which will potentially allow her to go from B tier to A tier, as the increased amount of self-movement speed from her E should allow her to not die as often and actually survive during the early, mid, or late game, as she currently just, doesn't do that. That means that our first highlight for this patch will be Morbana, which is her new name due to the fact that she's pretty much banned by both teams every single game because everyone hates her. This, of course, happens because she hard counters engage and hook champions, and since that's pretty much the most popular style of support right now, she is almost always banned. Well, also the fact that Dark Binding, when you get hit by it, lasts long enough to give you the time to contemplate the meaning of life, actually figure it out, and then forget about it because you're still stuck in the binding, creating a massive level of frustration. She's still an amazing pickup though for anyone's champion pool for support because she pretty much is a free win if left open, because the likelihood of someone picking a champion she counters is about 90%. The other 10% being Nami pickers, of course, which Morg doesn't do amazing into, but it's fine. They'll probably just pick Leona or Nautilus anyways. So that means you're gonna want to pick up Morgana if you like laughing at Nautilus, Leona, and Thresh players as you gain some LP at their expense. Speaking of Thresh players, he's my next recommendation, and the first piece of advice on him that I'm gonna give you is to, of course, ban Morgana. With that out of the way, Thresh is a fantastic champion for this patch, as he is not only going to enable aggressive champions like Lucian, but he can also give a free escape to champions like Misfortune or Jinx, making him a perfect meta pick. Combine that with his strong roaming and skirmish gameplay, and you'll wonder why he isn't picked in High-ELO or been a stable high-level support across all brackets for years. Oh wait, he has been. If you're looking to put in any long-term effort into a single champion, Thresh would be your go-to for support, as he fits into almost any team comp and is fairly meta-resistant due to a secret passive given to him by his creator CertainT. Now, the funny thing about our next champion, Janna, is unlike Thresh, who you gotta put a lot of effort in to see any results, Janna will get you that sweet taste of victory right off the bat. She just has such good synergy with the top tier ADCs like Misfortune, Jinx, or Caitlyn, providing them with insane damage from the AD from her shield and peeling, since you know ADC's got 99 problems, and positioning is 100% going to be one of them, I can guarantee this. But outside of that, unlike the public perception of the champion would lead you to believe, Janna does actually have a decently high skill ceiling. It's just that, you know, she doesn't actually need to reach it to get a bunch of wins, giving her a stigma of a champion who often gets carried. That doesn't mean though that putting in time on Janna will not give you decent return, as a properly timed tornado and ultimate can be the difference between your Misfortune yelling at you for letting them die, or, you know, yelling at you for saving them. Either way, AD carry players just yell a lot. I do highly recommend you pick up Janna though this patch if you like enchanters, along with Nami, as they are both incredibly strong. Thanks for watching our 10.2 Low Elo tier list, and be sure to check out the High-ELO video and the pick of the patch video this week as well. But don't forget to check out Mobalytics.gg, and I'm Adam Moriarty Isles. Hopefully, I'll see you out on the Rift.